every new year brings a sense of possibility, right? A chance to reset, refocus, and start fresh. But data shows how quickly that motivation can sometimes fade. A new Pew Research survey that was actually put out last year found 3 in 10 Americans made at least one resolution. Now, out of the 8, 1 out of 8 say that they didn't keep any of those resolutions that they started the year with, and 4 out of 5 focused on health. And so why do fresh starts always feel so powerful, yet, they tend to fall apart so fast? Positive psychology expert and coach Adrienne Kelly joins us this morning to explain the science behind these fresh starts. It's so good to see you this morning. So we want to talk about this morning, Adrienne, how we can actually make these resolutions and these goals stick in the new year. But I'm curious, why do dates like January 1st, the new year, or our birthdays, or even Mondays feel so powerful for us when it comes to our psychological?
Great to be here. Yeah, it's a great place to start this conversation, because if we look back in the last 12 months as we approach a new year, it kind of forces us to evaluate a significant period of time, and in a time in which probably has seen a bit of change for you, you can see how progress is made over that period, and that's called a temporal timestamp. Now, when it comes to psychology, it also allows us to separate the new you, potential you, from the old you. So as we look towards 2026, it gives us an opportunity to align or to, I suppose, generate that type of new you, the one that you're aiming for. And therefore, it focuses our concentration on that.
If fresh starts are so powerful, I guess the big question would be, why do so many resolutions fall apart by February? I think about, going to the gym or eating healthy. Everybody's in it for January, and by February or March, so many of us have fallen off.
Well, they say the heaviest weight in the gym is the front door, and I think that's a very interesting way to look at it. A lot of starting activities, maybe new activities, the way to think about those is small wins build momentum. Now, when it comes to staying with resolutions, there's a great phrase. I didn't coin it. It was actually a guy called David Epstein who wrote a book called Range. Fit is grit. So if we can find things that suit us in some respect, it's more likely we'll stay with them when the going gets tough. And that's about finding the intrinsic motivation, the aspect of something that appeals to you. Now, I work with a lot of athletes, and to pick an American sport, baseball, for example, I remember speaking to a Major League Baseball player a few years back, and I said, you played at pro for 13 years. Why did you must have had some tough times. What was it that really got you through those? And he said to me, well, it was the feeling of hitting the ball. It was the connection of hitting those home runs that saw me through all the tough times. So if we can find the small stuff that, I enjoy running, I enjoy clearing the head. I like the runners and rush, the endorphins that you get from it. If you focus on that as you do the activity, it's much more likely that you'll stay with it. But finding that fit, sampling different things that are good for you or you'd like to do is very much recommended.
Yeah, have some realistic goals. And like you said, you don't have to do everything at once. But what's the biggest mistake you think people make in the first few weeks of January when they have these big goals?
Well, there's a great phrase, rituals succeed where resolutions fail. I think it's about planning ahead and embedding an activity into your daily life, your weekly routine, let's say. James Clear, obviously, is the expert on habits, and there's a great book, Atomic Habits. It's worth reading. And it takes approximately 66 days to embed a new habit into your life. But I think it takes much less than that to realize it's for you or it's something that you want to do. And then it's about getting up and doing it. And there's I think on a wind turbine, I used to be in the wind turbine business, called an activation motor. And it's a little known mechanism on one of these big turbines that actually pushes the blades. So as the wind increases gradually, it pushes the blades to get going. And as the wind speed increases, momentum is enough to carry the blades through then, and it stops. It doesn't need to push anymore. And activities, priming your environment so that it makes it easier to do a New Year's resolution is very, very important. So whether that's sleeping in your running clothes or having your shoes out the next morning, your gym gear packed, prime the environment, and then it's small steps. Put the gear on, sit on the couch, then step out to the front door. Maybe drive down to where you're going to take a run. But all the time, keep it in your back pocket that you can go home at any stage. And I've done this, but I've never gone home. I always follow through on the run. So it's about small wins, momentum, and then seeing the activity through.
Artificial intelligence has become such an ingrained part of our daily lives, so much so that last week Time magazine named the architects of AI its Persons of the Year. As we look ahead to 2026, the use of artificial intelligence only expected to get greater. A new Pew Research Center study shows nearly 2 in 3 adults in the U.S. interact with AI at least several times a week, and younger adults are leading the AI adoption, with more than 3/4 of adults under the age of 30 using it, and half saying they use AI at least on a weekly basis. But the study also found that control is a major concern. About 6 in 10 Americans say they want more control over how AI is used in their lives. And that tension between opportunity and concern sets us up perfectly for our conversation now with Jitu Patel, President and Chief Product Officer at Cisco. Jitu, it's great having you. Thank you for your time.
Dan, thank you for having me.
You know, I use ChatGPT every day now. It's hard to remember what life was like before, even just a couple years ago. What's the next big thing for AI, for us everyday consumers? And what inning do you think we are in right now in this AI revolution?
So we're in the very early innings. I'd say probably the first to second inning. And you are right. I think this has become a habit for many consumers where, you know, if you take it away from us, it would be pretty disorienting at this point. The next era of AI is here, though, and that's actually agents. So rather than just chatbots intelligently answering our questions, we are now going to have these agents that conduct tasks and jobs almost fully autonomously for us. If you wanted to go get yourself a reservation at a restaurant and go book yourself a basketball game, you just tell an agent to do that, and it does it behind the scenes and comes back to you with any questions if it has any, and then you can go ahead and do it. And that initially starts for individuals, and then you can actually have these agents also be used with teams. And you won't just have one agent, you'll have multiple agents in concert with one another that'll actually start working. So it's exciting times ahead.
So if we're moving into this agentic phase, what is that going to do for power demand? I ask because data centers becoming such a contentious topic here in Georgia, and people here, some worried about the power, water, and land use. How should communities be thinking about that trade-off, what they're getting with AI versus what they're giving up?
That's a great question. And if you think about the constraints that AI has right now, what could be impediments that hold it back from reaching its full potential? There are 3. There's infrastructure constraint, there's a trust deficit for safety and security where people are concerned, and then there's a data gap. On the infrastructure side, it's literally the world doesn't have enough power, compute, or network bandwidth to go satiate the needs of AI. It's one of the biggest challenges that we have. So what's happening is rather than power being pulled to where the data centers are being built where the power is available. And it's actually changing data center architectures. They're getting built all over the world. In fact, now you're starting to see data centers that will be hundreds of kilometers apart that operate as one coherent unit, because you don't have enough capacity to pull power in a single data center. So you now have to go out and literally have 2 data centers that virtually act as one giant computer.
That's one of the concerns we've heard from folks. How do you think we are sitting on the world stage when it comes to building these? Are we going to be ahead or behind some other countries?
That's a great question. There's 2 major countries that will actually provide the infrastructure for AI, and the world will look very different depending on which one of them wins. Right now, we're in the lead, but it's America and China. And when you start thinking about where we're ahead on chips. We are ahead on the algorithms and the models that get built. Even though, I mean, China is a very close competitor. They have more power availability than we do, and so you will see kind of differences in the way that the market evolves, but it's, we want to make sure that American technology is being utilized anywhere in the world where data centers are getting built out. And data centers will be built out in sovereign nations, because every country is going to want to have their ability to generate tokens, because your ability to generate tokens will be directly proportionate with your to have economic prosperity or national security. So we want to make sure we help the world do that and help our allies do that.
G2, let's talk about the impact on jobs and what kind of jobs will be lost to AI in the next few years. You've said we're in the second or first inning right now. Do you think on the other side of this, AI ultimately creates more jobs or eliminates more?
There'll be some jobs that'll be lost. Virtually every job will get reconfigured because of AI, and there'll be entire industries that actually get created as a result of it. Now, what's interesting is there's been a lot of conversation around jobs getting lost. But what we've seen so far is, in fact, where there's a scarcity of jobs and where there's actually a pay increase for jobs is everything related to AI. So while people have been fearful that AI is going to take their jobs, in fact, if you know AI, chances are you're going to do a pretty good, you're going to have a pretty good kind of ride ahead of you, because there's such a huge demand for these jobs and the pay scales have gone up. Even electricians, the demand for electricians has gone up, through the roof. And you see that with electricians and plumbers and all kind of jobs on the physical labor side. But you also see that with jobs of programmers. If you're a programmer that knows AI versus one that doesn't, you're far more valuable if you're a programmer that knows AI. So resisting this and sitting on the sidelines is absolutely the wrong strategy to have. And I think it's going to be while in any of these shifts, you'll see kind of major reconfigurations that happen. I think it'll be pretty hard to overstate the importance of AI over time.
G2, my final question, got about 30 seconds left with you. How should we be thinking about the future of higher education? You're a dad, I'm a dad. Is college going to be as good of an investment for them as it was for us?
I think college actually gives you one of the things, which is, ability to take something and complete it within 4 years. That's the biggest skill I've learned in college, is the ability to complete something that you started. But the way in which education is conducted and the way in which we learn will fundamentally change with AI. And it's not going to be a process that just is confined to those 4 years. It's going to be even after. So I feel like education will continue on, but it'll be fundamentally reimagined with AI. And I hope it does, because I think there's a lot of areas that could be improved upon.
2 expected sources of congestion in the coming days. You got the downtown connector, always. And then you got Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport. That's going to be busy too, as AAA says this year's year-end holiday travel will be the busiest on record, with millions hitting the roads and airports between now and New Year's Day. Joining us now to talk more about it is AAA's Montre Waiters with everything folks need to know. Montre, great to see you this morning. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
So why is this year shaping up to be the busiest year-end travel period ever?
So look, what we're seeing is simple. People feel travel is vital. After being stuck at home during the pandemic, they view it as a key to feeling good and staying close to others. So each year since the pandemic, we have been seeing travel kind of uptick. We project right now 122 million Americans will be on the move, including more than 3.8 million Georgians here alone.
All right. And what about driving versus flying? What are most folks going to be doing?
Oh, absolutely. So, most folks will be driving. So out of that 3.8 million, we're going to have at least 3.4 million who are going to be hitting the road. So folks, it's very important that you make sure that you get your car checked out by a trained technician before hitting the road. Driving is overwhelmingly favorite among most travelers because it's convenient and low cost.
Yeah, I mean, flight tickets these days, they're getting up there. But if you're going to be hopping in the car, I mean, gas prices year over year, at least steady, right?
Oh, absolutely. So here's the good thing. And hopefully by the time Christmas get here, gas prices have been trending well below $3. So right now we're kind of sitting at $2.79. And last year around this time, it was like around $2.90. So right now we're anticipating that gas prices will still kind of below this year.
Okay, what about the worst day to drive nationally? And does Atlanta follow that pattern? When do I need to avoid the roads?
Of course. So Christmas week is forecast to be the busier on the road than it is for New Year's. But both weeks will see days of increased traffic. So we always tell drivers, make sure you leave early as possible, because anytime after noon, folks, pack your patience. You're going to be sitting in traffic.
Okay, what about if you're going to be flying? Is there one day that you're projecting to be just kind of the worst, the busiest? I believe, over Thanksgiving, but it's usually like the Tuesday before and the Sunday and Monday after. What are we looking at for Christmas this year, which happens to fall on a Thursday?
Absolutely. Again, because it's kind of stagnant as far as when folks will leave around Christmas, it's very important to make sure they just check their flight status before leaving home to make sure there are not any delays or cancellations. So definitely that week heading up into the couple of days before Christmas, the airports are going to be very crazy. So we're asking folks to please get there at least 2 hours before your flight for domestic and 3 hours for international. So it's all about making sure, really getting there and you can get through security so you don't have any issues and you make your flight on time.
That's right. You do not want to miss that holiday flight home. That's for sure. Got to answer to some family members when you get there. Hey, is there like
Absolutely.
one big misconception people have when it comes to off-peak travel? Any advice as we head into these crazy few weeks here?
Well, again, it's all about planning ahead. Unfortunately, for the folks that, especially if you're going to be flying that have not already purchased your ticket, we talked about how ticket prices are already increased. Expect that to probably maybe even double because you wait till the last minute. And we would hope that you would consider travel insurance with that. Because again, if there's a delay or cancellation, if you paid all of this money, you're going to want to have something to help you out when it comes monetarily. So travel insurance is definitely something they should keep in mind.
Yeah, worth seeing if your credit card company will help you out there in that regards too.
Emory finds Georgia parents still overwhelmingly support childhood vaccines, even as national policy debates grow louder. The Rollins School of Public Health poll found nearly 9 in 10 Georgia parents say routine vaccines are safe, with about half saying they're very safe. Trust in personal pediatricians far outweighs trust in federal agencies when parents make vaccine decisions. And more than 7 in 10 Georgia parents, well, they support the hepatitis B vaccine being given at birth, with nearly half strongly supporting it. So let's go ahead and dive deeper now with Chair of Emory's Department of Health Policy and Management, Dr. Stephen Patrick. Welcome. Good morning.
Good morning.
So let's talk about this. So when you look at these numbers I just read, what stands out most to you about where Georgia parents are right now in the mix of all of this?
Well, this is good news. We saw no change from our poll last year on parents' thoughts of safety of vaccines. And that's a win. What parents are telling us is that they believe vaccines are safe and they know who their trusted messengers are.
And so this poll, you said, very similar to last year's, the results. Tell me, does that surprise you? Because these conversations are only growing more and more now. We know CDC has been having nonstop meetings on these regulations.
It was a surprise. I think one of the worries as a pediatrician was that all of the discourse we're seeing, all the misinformation, might erode some of the thoughts of vaccine and the safety of vaccines. But what we're seeing are things holding steady. I think one other thing that we saw was that parents don't really understand what some of the meetings are at ACIP. And, why would they? These meetings were working well before, and all of a sudden this year, they've gained a lot of attention. We asked parents about, did they know that meeting at CDC can affect insurance coverage for vaccines? Most of them did not know that. What's worrying about this, the one part of our poll which is worrisome, is that parents were asked, if your insurance didn't cover vaccines any longer, would you be likely to pay for them? And what we saw was that parents with incomes less than $75,000 were far less likely to pay for vaccines out of pocket for either finances or out of choice compared to higher income families.
So, why does trust in doctors remain so high even when trust in institutions is kind of rocky right now? Do you think it's the one-on-one personal conversation that you're able to have inside of a doctor's office?
It's been consistent. I would say that when I talk to families, I have a one-on-one relationship with my patients. That's different than seeing something on TikTok or on the news. It's about a trusted relationship. That you walk through really challenging times sometimes with your child's doctor. One thing that I found interesting is that trust in your child's doctor is stronger this year than last year, while everything else stayed the same. The other group that had high amounts of trust was your local health department. So I think what parents are telling us is that their trust is local. They know who their trusted messengers are. It's their child's pediatrician or family doctor, and it's their county health department.
So overall in Georgia, can you kind of compare the state as far as what our parents are saying to other states or most states right now?
Well, we don't have national data, so we do this poll annually, and we'll have more releases in the coming months where we just take a pulse of where parents are and where kids are in the state of Georgia. So we don't have similar data for other states. I will say that one thing that we do know is that we've seen a decline in kindergartners being fully vaccinated going in to kindergarten. And that's worrisome right now while we're seeing outbreaks just north of us in South Carolina of measles. And so we know that some of our vaccine rates are a little bit lower than some of the other states, but I think this poll, all in all, is encouraging that parents are holding steady.
And so I have a friend who just welcomed a baby about 3 weeks ago. And so she's one of the many that are new parents, first-time parents, overwhelmed with the questions of, oh, is the child getting this shot? Are they getting the shot? What would you say to those parents who are maybe confused trying to figure things out?
Talk to your doctor. Your trusted messenger is the place to go. I mean, I would just say, like, my own training, 15 years of training to take care of, babies in hospitals. It's a long period of time where people train just to care for children. So those trusted relationships where you go to, talk about snotty noses and sore throats, those are the same messengers to talk to about vaccines. It's
Absolutely.
about having trusted partners.
Wallet Hub put out its report on the 100 largest U.S. cities to see what is the best place to be for enjoying Christmas. And maybe you'd be surprised by who came out on top. Maybe not. It's Atlanta sitting atop the ranking. After comparing nearly 30 holiday-focused metrics here, we rank top 10 nationally for holiday traditions and shopping, driven by a high concentration of bakeries, gift shops, decor shops, etc., etc. And the city also scores near the top for holiday generosity. How about this? Let's dig into this some more to find out why ATL is the place to be for Christmas with Wallet Hub writer and analyst Chip Lupo. Chip, happy holidays to you. Thank you for your time.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me on this morning.
Look, we're biased here in Atlanta. We know this is the place to be for Christmas, but it's good to have an outsider affirm what we've already know. What kind of metrics did you use in figuring out this ranking?
Well, it's interesting because what we did is that we measured all 100 largest U.S. cities by population over 5 dimensions. Those are traditions and fun, observance, generosity, shopping, and costs. And then we broke those down further with about 28 relevant metrics, and those cover things such as tradition, shopping, costs. Crunch the numbers 1 to 100, and yes, Atlanta came out number 1, followed by San Francisco, Seattle, Orlando, and Las Vegas.
Well, look, for folks who live here, they know it's not the cheapest of places to live on that list of 100. So how are we still able to come out on top there?
Well, it's interesting because Atlanta is the cheapest of the top 5 by a long shot, actually. Now, we did find, though, that there are some what we call affordable 4.5-star restaurants in Atlanta, but the price of a meal is still going to cost you an average meal. And more people are now celebrating Christmas with a meal at a restaurant as opposed to the stay-at-home and cooking thing. But a meal is still going to run you about $90 on average. And that's believe it or not, that's cheaper than any of the other metro areas behind it.
Are you saying $90 for 2 if you're taking a date, or is this for 1 person?
This is average meal, so yeah, this is like for 1 person.
All right.
Now this is overall.
It adds up, doesn't it? Anything that you found most surprising about Atlanta's performance on this list?
Now, I don't know if you knew this, but Atlanta is 10th overall in Christmas tree farms per capita.
Who knew?
Now, who knew? Because Christmas tree farms, that's not usually something you'd associate with a metro area. I grew up in North Carolina, and if you wanted a live Christmas tree, you drove out west out there and there were Christmas tree farms all the way to the Tennessee border. So for a metro area to have access to the Christmas tree farms, and that's far and away the highest out of any of the top 5 areas.
And I'm
but
from
also again, high.
There in North Carolina, you just chopped down your own Christmas tree too. So beautiful place out there in parts of Western North Carolina. And I'm sorry to cut you off there. Anything else you want to add, Chip?
Yeah, again, just a high number of now shopping is where Atlanta does the best. Now it's been a while since I've been out to Perimeter Mall, if it's still a thing now. But there are a high number of bakeries, holiday decoration shops, and card shops per capita. So you can do pretty much one-stop shopping when it comes to Christmas-themed gifts and shopping ideas in Atlanta.
All right, how about for the folks who may be ranked on the bottom of this list, those cities? That doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad place to celebrate, right?
Well, what's interesting, though, is that let's just focus on the bottom two. North Las Vegas, Nevada, and Hialeah, Florida, 99th and 100th, respectively. Now, these are essentially suburbs of larger cities, but they're huge population bases. So if you're in North Las Vegas, just a short drive from Las Vegas, that's where you're going to go. You're going to go into the city for Christmas celebrations. And the same with Hialeah. It's like roughly 20 minutes from Miami. And if you're one of these warm weather, Christmas by the beach people, everything you would want to do in that area, you just take that short drive down to Miami.
And I'm just guessing here, those two cities got dinged on affordability, perhaps?
For sure, yes. Las Vegas, relatively affordable, but Miami, way down there on the cost scale, for sure.